all sensual with the mic. So, before the start of our Rage Quit episode, I would like to tell a little bit about Rage Quit's sponsor. So, welcome to another episode of Rage Quit, the husband and wife duo that discusses video games every week. Rage Quit is sponsored by AFK Clothing Co. Are you a gamer? Do you enjoy games? Then check out AFK Clothing Co. for all of your gaming apparel needs. As I record this, I am sporting an AFK green sleeve baseball tee that I absolutely love and wear every week. We'd never be sponsored by something we didn't like. And if you'd like to support the show, head on over to AFK Clothing Co., link in the description below, and type ASI in the promo code box to get 10% off your next order. As always, just follow the bear, and now on to the show.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Rage Quit.
Episode 14!
Or is it?
Yeah. Yeah, so just, I guess for housekeeping, we used to do that for some of the older episodes. We changed, like, how we record Rage Quit, so we do them in, like, bulk now.
Yeah, because
it's more evergreen content, so we do, like, 4 or 5 within a couple-week period, and then then I work on the production side of things, and they roll out later. So by the time you're listening to this, it's going to be December. This discussion that we're having, we've had over the last couple days, but it's going on in October.
Oh, yeah.
So,
It's true.
Kind of keep that as, like, for frame of reference or, like, a good, like,
model of things.
Yeah, frame of mind, because we're going to be discussing Game of the Year picks for this episode. Episode 14. Yeah. As always, my name's Anthony Schultz.
I'm Muriel Skuhulitz.
Skuhulitz.com.
Mm-hmm. And as always, this is Rage Quit.
We are here.
We are not bananas.
That's not where you're going with that, but I saw it.
Yep. You saw what I did there. You saw. Hi, Dante.
But anyways, last couple days we've been discussing just 2019 as a whole. Not just video games per se.
No,
this is a video game podcast,
yeah.
but we're discussing music, film, just kind of pop culture videos in general. We'll be a little more focused for this episode, just concerning video games, but what does 2019 had to
offer? Where's its offers? Where's its offerings?
Yep. Gonna give tribute to Sobek so the alligators don't attack.
Oh, no, Dante, don't attack. He doesn't look like a little alligator when he's swimming.
He does, yeah. For a Chihuahua, it's funny. He does. He looks like
a blonde alligator.
Yeah, like gliding through the water in the pool. It is funny.
It is funny.
But anyways, what are your, like, I guess, uppermost thoughts about, like, broadest thoughts about video games in 2019?
Besides, like, 1 or 2 games, pretty meh, honestly. Like, they're, like, we've kind of were discussing, like, it's the last year of the last 10-year, like, decade, you know. Yeah. We don't have a big hurrah, a big bang. Like, 2018 fucking just rolled the punches, had a shit ton of awesome games coming out. And this year, it's just, like, meh.
Yeah, it's definitely been a slow year. I think part of it definitely has to coincide with the end of a console generation, too.
Well, then that's another thing, too. If it's the end of a console...
Something that I didn't really think about when we were discussing the last couple of days. But.
True, but if it's the end of a generation, like console generation, you would still think it'd go out with a big bang. Like, shit, you remember the PS4's got this game, its last game, or...
They usually don't do that, especially with Sony in particular. There is what is, like, become known as, like, the swan song of a generation. Specifically with Sony. I don't know if Xbox fans or players
do something.
Have that for their generations as well. I mean, the 2 consoles usually come out about the same time and, like, close out about the same time.
Yeah.
You know,
but PS4's been going on for what?
2013.
Jesus.
It's been 6 years, and then...
Are they really that long run?
No, not really.
I was just saying, it's like, I feel like...
It's a lot longer. They're becoming longer and longer generations.
Do you feel like because it's getting better and better built? I know we're kind of off tangential here.
Yeah, we got an hour podcast, and we're going to be discussing a little bit of everything. Plus, like you just pointed out, there's not a lot of games to go over and discuss for Game of the Year anyways. So, yeah. I think that it comes down to hardware and cost.
Yeah.
So... I think it's difficult for people to, especially with a lot of, like, boutique electronics and then just the age that we live in. There's a lot of awesome products that are out that are technological based. And so it's like every year, especially Americans, are buying a lot of these kind of things, or they're saving and picking and choosing which ones they want. Like, do I want the newest Apple Watch because I'm at work all the time, and that's like the most useful thing to have, and it's super snazzy and cool to use? Or for somebody else, is it like, oh, I need that new tablet for my artwork because I work in graphic design, and I should set aside $500 or $1,200 or whatever kind of brand or type you're getting
or even,
to buy that. I think it's the same thing with like gamers. It's
PC kind of, or gamers in general is like.
Hey, just gamers in general. I think it's less about like, oh, you play on an Xbox One, you're dumb. Oh, you play on a PS4, you're dumb. I think a lot more people have multiple consoles.
I feel like that has definitely surpassed since we were kids. Like, oh, how dumb are you? You have an Xbox. I think because like you said, people have multiple, can afford it, especially now, multiple consoles that I'm not saying people don't have their favorites, but they're not, how dare you have a PlayStation instead of an Xbox.
Yeah, it's more like, what do you like and what do you want to play? And then if you can't play it, it's like, you kind of live vicariously and watch other streamers stream games you can't play, or you watch YouTube series on games you can't play, or if you do have the money, you play it yourself. You're playing the newest Gears of War along with,
Bloodborne and
whatever newest PS4 exclusive,
and stuff like that.
Then flipping over to Link's Awakening on the Switch or something on those lines.
That's true, because we do have a Switch and a Wii and PlayStations and a Nintendo and.
And if we really wanted to, we could buy an Xbox One. Like,
I
mean, it's not, like, impossible for us to do so. It's just there's not a ton of games for, especially me, that I want to play on it to make it worthwhile. But that's a personal preference.
Yeah, it's personal, preference.
I can play all the third-party games that I want on my PS4, and then I prefer Sony exclusives, especially this last generation. But I think to get back to your original question, it's like overall cost of producing these consoles and then the consumer buying them, that it makes sense for it to last longer. Plus, development costs are always on the rise. It takes either more money or a larger team or sometimes both to produce these games just because of the hardware capabilities. So if they have longer development cycles, I mean, how awful would it be if you had a short one, like back in the day, it was only a few years or 4 years or something. It's like development cycles oftentimes are 4 years now.
Yeah.
So it's like you're producing something for the PlayStation 4, and by the time you have a finished product, the PS5's out.
Yeah.
That would really kind of like fuck up a studio's groove and a lot of studios and how they function.
So do you feel like they're revamping it, in a sense of the word, for the fact that because games have long cycles and they're trying to do it for the newest hardware, that's why they're wanting also to have the generation and show that it can last, that it's not a piece of junk you bought and it's going to die in a year or two?
Yeah, I think it absolutely adds to like consumer value as well. Like, it's worth having for
because it's not
7 years.
It's not a consumable.
Or 8 years.
It's not like shampoo or something you buy.
No, it's not. I mean, it's not throwaway. I think there was a good period in the middle, especially with electronics, where electronics were starting to be designed that way to last only a few years, so you would have to buy a new one. Yeah. But now,
people are,
at least in my opinion, the quality of said products are going up because they're more expensive, because the parts going into them are either harder to create or more expensive to get a hold of, or because of the tech built inside them, there's more intricacies. So I think kind of forced at least consumerism or capitalism to kind of go back to what we were, in like the 50s or 60s even, where it was built to last.
Or we could repair it on our own if it broke.
Exactly. Or these big companies, if something happened to it and there was like a recall, you could send it in and be repaired and get it back, instead of like, it's easy for you just to throw it away and then spend another $400 to buy a new one.
Which, I don't know about you, but I ain't got no
especially if you had to do it, like, regularly, every 2 years or something.
Well, yeah, and it's like, I didn't even honestly realize that's how long it's been, because we've always just had the PS4. Like I've always said, I've never really been much of a big gamer, besides maybe my handheld Game Boys, and even then, those never really popped out too often, either.
Yeah, I mean, there's some regular issues that older consoles can have, depending on the console.
And how you treat it too, but that's just on a personal.
Well, I mean, there's even some more like kind of like baseline reasons that a console would like crap out on you. Like, there's a I'm not sure if I would be able to find it, but there's a like a regular reason that the Sega Dreamcast will like break on you. I can't recall exactly what it is, but it's something along the lines of like, and this is not necessarily true for this example, but like the type of soldering used on the chipset on the board, you know, will only last about 7 years before it'll start to crumble, and then the chipset will like break away from the board, and then it'll be like non-functioning. It's more difficult to replace that than to just buy a new one, kind of a thing. I kind of described a problem that like PS3s had, but
yeah.
But it's something along those lines, where there's like a set amount of time usually for some of these. Like, you might get lucky and it'll last way longer, and then there's other times where it's like, well, it might, you know, break down within 3
a couple years. Yeah,
but,
depending on how much you use it and wear and tear and all that good stuff.
That kind of knowledge comes from really the time that the console's been on the market. So something like a Dreamcast, where it's been almost 20 years, it's like you're gonna be able
run
to
into a bit of problems.
Yeah, you're gonna be able to log to the types of issues that, you know, a Dreamcast
compared
has.
to like something that's been on the market for like 3 years.
Yeah, somebody who's like a hobbyist who, you know, takes them apart or fixes them, or
someone leaves it on running and burns out the thermal paste or something like that.
Yeah, you know, you have your small business where you're repairing
like a certain sensitive link into theirs.
Super Nintendos or something, and you notice 75% of the time it's the same issue. Like, you can probably say that there was a manufacturing issue that is resulting in,
or if you're like a hobbyist
down.
or fixing things and it's like different issues each time, then it's just the person how you operate.
Then that's more user error than like manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, oh well, manufacturing has gotten a lot better in the 20 years since, so we're not actually using these materials for, like, you know, the solderings on this motherboard or whatever. But no, I think the longer cycles of consoles is just indicative of how, like, consumerism and capitalism is going, but I think it more intimately ties into studio development costs and the cycle that it takes for them to produce games. It makes sense for then the hardware to like last longer, to give studios a chance to even create games for it.
Yeah.
And which makes sense, because it's like that's an investment of time and money. So it's like you don't want a console generation to skip by in a beat when
the games aren't even out yet.
Yeah, it was a lot faster and cheaper to do it, you know, 30 years ago, but you didn't have as many people with the technical expertise to even do it.
Or quality of games either.
Yeah, and so it was like you had, you know, you could have a person or two produce games for, you know, the NES.
Yeah.
But do they know enough about, you know, basic programming or even like computers at the time? But nowadays it's flipped, where you have a ton of people with knowledge to do that kind of things. But the hardware has far surpassed like what it takes to produce like a game for that console,
which is insane.
It's like the roles have just kind of reversed. And I think that like Sony's and Microsoft's response to a long generation is to do like an iterative like in between, so
like the Slim, or
not so much that, but actually a machine that's more powerful than like the base model. Really? So like the PS4 Pro and the was it the Xbox One X, the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro, they are more powerful machines than the original PS4 and Xbox. They're not just smaller.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's designed to up-res to like 4K television.
Oh yeah, because the TVs are still doing their thing.
Yeah, and then studios could also provide patches to implement like the new hardware
for games,
essentially modding their own game.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
You know, to make it look better.
So what, if that's the case, if people have now, in a sense, the time to make the game. For granted, obviously, you're always gonna have a crunch and a timeline, but the time to make the games, to make them amazing and big and great. What's up with 2019 then? What the hell?
I just think if the PS4 or PS5 and the Xbox Scarlet are coming out holiday of 2020, which is just a little more than a year away. A year and 2 months? A month and a half.
Yeah.
A year and 2 months. And we talked about development cycles
and all that. So
I think with like the longer development cycles like thrown into the mix, And then the fact that studios can add those patches and stuff to have like up-res versions of their games, it's easier to do a patch than design a whole game.
Yeah.
For that. And so that's what I think, like, Microsoft's and Sony's response to a longer generation, like I just said. But I think it's winding down more so because it's only a year and 2 months away. And so you're having a lot of these studios now gearing up to produce games for
the new consoles.
For the new consoles. And if they have longer development cycles, like I've been saying, then they're going to need that year and 2 months to get that head start to start producing games for the PlayStation 5 and Scarlet.
So do you feel like the reason why 2019 is... I'm not saying it doesn't have its game changers and good games in it, but it hasn't been so... Bow is because of that reason?
I think it has. I mean, it's a little disappointing because we were talking more, like, even bigger kind of scope about, like...
Music, too. But
yeah, like how a lot of art mediums, including video games, like represent usually like a decade or a succinct period of time, that it is a little disappointing to get to 2019, and just because of how console generations worked and how these companies function, like we're not really having this big push or like last hurrah, like that would be really cool to see. That's representative of, you know, even if it was just most of the decade, it's like this is what gaming was from 2013 to now.
Yeah.
Like, here's the pinnacle of what we can do. I think the swan songs that we're going to get, like we talked about at the beginning of the episode, is going to be like The Last of Us Part 2, which The Last of Us was the swan song for the PS3.
Okay, so they're kind of they just haven't come out yet because it's only October and we still have 2 more months. I think for a second there.
Yeah.
What year is it?
What year is it? I think we're going to get, you know, swan songs for the generation. It's just, it's going to miss this holiday mark and this year.
You think so?
Yeah, it's going to be more in 2020 leading up to the PS5 launch. We're going to have, you know...
So just have that brief kind of crossover in 2020.
Yeah, and I would imagine a lot of these big games that we're going to get in 2020, at least in the first half of the year, like your Doom Eternals, your Final Fantasy VII...
I thought it was going to be on 2019.
It got pushed back,
That's
yeah.
right,
It was supposed to come out in November of this year, but they needed more time to work on it, so it's going to be March 20th of 2020.
Lame.
But I think that... Final Fantasy VII Remake and The Last of Us Part 2, I would imagine, are going to be...
kind of a big boom of the end.
Yeah, you got a good third-party representative, you have a good first-party representative with Last of Us Part 2, and then you have a remake in there of one of the most beloved games of all time. So it's like, you have a good kind of swath, or a good like litmus test of what, you know, the generation was before. It's just going to be in 2020 and just miss the mark.
Yeah.
Of 2019, right before the new year, and then that holiday season, unfortunately. And that's just because of, I think, where the console generation's kind of lined up.
So now this kind of segues into the game of the year for 2019. So does that make you feel like the crud brain fart nominees?
Yeah.
That's how you say that word?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For the game of the year are just kind of because of how this year's been? And
yeah, I think it just happened to be like spacing and timing. Like there was already cogs spinning that we have no control of, and it just happened to fall in a weird like
generation middle change.
Yeah, it's like we're switching generations between console generations between 2019 and 2020, and you know, I'm always an advocate for if you have to push a game back to work on it further to make it better, that's a good idea. Do that if you have the opportunity to do so. I'd rather be disappointed as a consumer for a few months that I didn't get to play the game I wanted to right then than to have a subpar game released then. I'd rather wait 3 months or 6 months or whatever and then play it when it's done.
No, and I get that too. For the idea of, you know, being an amazing game for 2020, the new generation and all that. But I feel like because what we're talking about is the game of the year, just slim pickings, and the shit that they're nominating and what should be nominated or going for the game of the year is like...
It is weird. It makes for an interesting year.
Because, like, I know what we're saying, it's like, you and I both love Days Gone. And Days Gone is hardly getting any buzz for game of the year.
No, it was reviewed slammed when it came out, and in my opinion, unnecessarily so. I think I don't know why that game was singled out. I feel like that could be a culmination of events too, where it was like Sony was riding high with so many great single player narrative driven like first party exclusives that it got to Days Gone, and anything that like a reviewer could find about it, they wanted to tear apart
because they've been doing.
Or
so
their
well.
editors were telling their writers to do that just to make a better buzz. Instead of just being an article headline like Sony knocks it out of the park again with Horizon Zero Dawn or whatever.
Days Gone and
you get to Days Gone and it's like, okay, let's fucking switch up. I think that was more like media tainting that game because it was like it's the first of its kind as far as from that studio, and it's coming on the heels of all these great single player games.
Do they have a list? I know that you had a list potentially of what the nominees are for Game of the Year 2019.
Yeah,
let's go over that.
Some
and
websites
talk about it.
have done like reader polls.
Like they're not going to be exact because it's not yet. When is this again come out in December, right?
This episode's going to release in December.
No, this is, but
the only one that we're most Game of the Year, like the like a main award show and stuff. Bless you, is in December, and then most outlets will either do a podcast or articles or both in December.
Yeah.
It's usually about that. Bless you.
Sorry.
Some of the big ones talked about. This is via Polygon.
Polygon.
The best of games of 2019 so far. So this is their list. This is best games on PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, PC, and mobile. So they hit a little bit of everything. Outer Wilds.
I don't think I've ever played that game.
No, it's coming to the PS4 shortly. It's an indie game that did really well. That was on the PC.
Okay, so it's already been.
That's one I want to try and play. It looks really good. It's very interesting. Kind of a smaller game to my knowledge. I think that's worthy of being mentioned. A game called Void Bastards.
Sorry.
I'll read this line too. Void Bastards is a droll take on the BioShock format.
What?
I don't know. A droll take does not
bode well.
Yeah, and that is written by Russ Frischstick.
Should probably look into what droll means.
Droll, like drab or dry. Or,
I'm telling the dude he should look into what.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I was like, that's weird to like use
phrase
that
a droll
in a Game of the Year
nominee,
article. But
I'm just saying that dude.
Yeah, it has negative connotation. Yeah, it's very weird. SteamWorld Quest. That is a part of like the SteamWorld Dig kind of universe.
No idea.
That's an indie game. They've had multiple games in multiple genres. Okay. Pretty interesting, kind of cool. Again, small game, indie game. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. That's probably one of the biggest ones that has been mentioned.
Yeah.
That's from Software. They did Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Bloodborne.
Yeah.
And now Sekiro is their newest one.
Okay. That's what I thought.
So, John and I actually discussed Sekiro a little bit last time he was over. Or no, when I went over and I was trying out VR for the first time, actually, is when we discussed it. But
didn't he crack you in the knee when you were playing VR? Or you?
Yeah, he cracked me in the knee.
And then you kicked a dog on accident?
I almost tripped over a dog, because his dog Ted was laying down while I was doing... I think he has the Oculus, I think. And, his dog Ted was, like, laying behind me. And he had moved and laid down behind me. And so I stepped back. Yeah, I was playing Robo Recall, and I stepped backwards and almost fell over. But
anyway,
from my understanding, the difference is really just subtle, and it's in the combat. So like one of the reasons I like Bloodborne so much opposed to Dark Souls is because Dark Souls is very defensive based.
Yeah, and you're very offensive.
Yeah, I'm usually an aggressive, like offensive
very
based
angry,
player.
Have issues.
It's like I like to run into battle and be quick and fast. Like I don't want to be like slowly putting up my shield and then taking a hit every few seconds and then like timing it and then like then attacking once or twice and then
that's
after the shield.
In general,
it's just too slow paced for me. So that's why I don't like that.
You did that even like in the Division when you had a group of people who are like, what the hell is that?
I just take off, and that's more defensive based too. that one has a little more forgiving, so that you can be more aggressive if you're
But I'm
decent
saying in
enough.
general, that's just you. That's how you play. You never do sneaky mode unless it's like an assassino and you have to do it to get the trophies because you're a trophy whore.
Yeah, that's.
Otherwise, you're just like.
If it works and it's fun to be stealthy, I will. They don't have a lot of those games either. Like Metal Gear Solid back in the day, and like Splinter Cell and games like that were like very stealth oriented. And I love those games. I played them all the time. But the whole combat system and game mechanics were built around it.
Yeah.
They don't really do that anymore. Assassin's Creed has good elements in it where you can be stealthy.
Yeah, but even then,
And they
that
have
kinda
deep
is a shit
combat.
show.
Trees. Yeah, but it's like if it becomes a shit show, you can like.
Just kill everybody.
Yeah, in the old school Metal Gear Solids and Splinter Cells, you could not do that. Like,
Yeah.
if you were caught, it was like a done deal kind of a thing. You were
Da-da-da.
supposed to be stealthy. From my understanding, though, Sekiro is not necessarily defensive or offensive based like Bloodborne. It's more based on the parry system. So you have to be able to parry attacks in order to... Which is more timing based and probably a little more fluid. So I might enjoy that one.
Potentially, yeah.
In my opinion, looking at it, it looks a lot like Neo, which is another one that is really underrated. So I find Neo's combat to be incredibly like enriching and fun to play and varied. You can make it really slow and defensive if you want, like Dark Souls, or you can be very quick and offensive like Bloodborne, or you can make it like Sekiro and have to parry. Like, I like a game where it lets you choose how to play and is difficult, not one that forces you to play in one way.
Yeah.
Like, the difficulty's not is what bothers me about any of these games. It's
the forcing of one version.
yeah, it's how the combat like plays out and those mechanics is what either makes me like it or dislike it.
Yeah. So,
But Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is up there. From
Okay.
Software's got a good pedigree, but they're pretty much making the same game over and over.
True.
We got a long bit about Sekiro. Hypnospace Outlaw. Set entirely in a late 90s GeoCities-like online hub.
Boy.
That sounds fantastic, because I had a GeoCities website back in the day, so...
Of course you did.
Yeah, when I was in high school.
Ah, the good old days.
Looks like another smaller indie game. Not available on console, available Steam, which we don't cover a lot of PC gaming, but it's on Windows, PC, Mac, and Linux.
It's still gonna get mentioned.
There's another PC one. Total War 3 Kingdoms. Total War is a long-running franchise. To my knowledge, more like strategy-based game.
Okay.
Linux, Mac, and Windows PC as well. I don't know why they inverted the list.
That's weird.
It throws me off. New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe.
Okay.
I didn't even know that had been created.
I know.
Yeah, that's exactly how you would think it would sound. Nothing new. Mario game that was released on the Wii U.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, it's just like that is now on the Switch.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. That's why it's the deluxe version, kind of like when Mario Kart.
Mario Kart Deluxe 8 or something like that.
Yeah, that was released on the Wii U and then came over to the Switch. So Nintendo wisely is moving over some of the best games on the Wii U that nobody played to the Switch since they have a huge user base now.
Well, that makes sense, though, because everyone hated the Wii U, now they got the Switch, and everyone loves the Switch. Might as well just fucking just...
But again, a port, so that bothers me a little bit. It's a port of the
we'll
game.
talk about that, too, because there's a couple in there that...
Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Meh.
That released in February. Great game. Fantastic remake.
But it's a remake.
But it's a remake, yeah. So, again,
nothing
some
original.
issues there. What else we got? Slay the Spire.
Oh, Spyro.
Roguelite. That is on PC. Not console. Baba Is You. It's like a
Baba
puzzle game. It is on PC and Switch. Apex Legends, which I did not realize had released this year.
Ugh.
I believe that came out in February as well. And that's on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC.
That's how I feel about that.
Yeah, really. Bless you.
Thank you. Sorry.
But yeah, we're getting another Battle Royale game. I think, is leaps and bounds better than Fortnite. But still a Battle Royale game. And that is all this article actually brings up. There was an IGN one. Actually, it's right here. This is their, reader hold
Yeah.
Article. A lot of similar games, a little bit more succinct. They have Apex Legends as well, and Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, as well as Resident Evil 2 Remake. They also included in their poll Mortal Kombat 11, Tom Clancy's The Division 2, and Days Gone.
That's the only one that ever mentions Days Gone.
Yeah, and Days Gone's, like I said, this is a reader-submitted poll via IGN, so they have percentage breakdowns. This is based on roughly 35,000 votes. Days Gone is last with 8.6%.
Jesus.
However, there is kind of a cluster around it. Tom Clancy's Division 2 only has 10.1%. Apex Legends only has 9.8%, just barely higher than Days Gone. And Mortal Kombat 11 is at 12%. So those 4 games are kind of clustered around each other. The breakouts in this particular poll is Sekiro with almost 25%, and Resident Evil 2 Remake leads that pack with 34%.
All right.
But that's kind of like the general outline. The only other 2 that I would include that I've been hard-pressed to find any outlet really cover is Borderlands 3 and Devil May Cry 5.
Yeah, and so that's another thing we need to bring up. Why in the hell is a remake being nominated?
I don't know. I know in years past when I would follow other journalists and reviewers or internet personalities that covered video games in the industry, they've discussed that before. Like, do remakes or remasters or ports deserve to be
Nominated,
or you have a possibility to win?
I don't think so, honestly.
And some of them have said that as well, and then some of them have vied for them or made the distinction between a remaster and a remake. Especially nowadays. I'm in the same camp as you. I think a remake or a remaster should be.
Or a port.
Or a port, yeah.
Because they had their chance the years that they came out to be Game of the Year. And
if they didn't win then...
Why in the fuck...
And it's the same game, relatively speaking. Or even just in spirit of the same game. How and why would it win?
Yeah, why does it matter now?
It's kind of like, in my mind, you think of new books that came out. Like, that's a sphere that I'm very in touch with as well. New books come out in 2019. There's a book of the year, or maybe even a book of the genre, like best horror novel of the year. You know? You'd say, okay, well, it's this. I don't think this came out this year, but Stephen King's The Outsider is like best horror novel of 2018. And like, okay, imagine if you had this is the third, reprint. I'm sure it's way further in this of Stephen King's The Shining.
Yeah.
Because it's a new reprint and has hit store shelves with a different cover, and now it's a trade paperback. And it is up for Best Horror Book of 2018, the same year. And it wins. And it's like, well, you have this new novel that was written that is like contemporaneous and that's coming out, or came out.
Yeah.
That is representative of that year and of that genre. Why would a book from 50 years ago be considered to be the best book of the year, the best horror novel of the year? That seems... Now we're taking in all of consideration pretty much every single video game made, or every single book made, or every single album made, or every single film made, and it's like, that's not then the best of that year, of the year, and then there's no point to even have it. You're pretty much just saying the best of all time. Yeah. And that's different.
That is completely different, and I agree, because it's like, that's a good kind of, like, to preface it and put a stamp on it. It's like, you've already read it.
Yeah.
And they just stopped in the cover.
And Resident Evil 2, the original, plays like
exactly
Resident
like
Evil 2 remake. Like,
it does.
It's the same story. It's like, it's just tweaked with like modern benefits, like graphics and like quality of life improvements. That's all it is.
Can you play as Claire in the original?
I don't know. I played too much of Resident Evil 2. I played a little bit of it. The one I really played was Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. But I have Resident Evil 2 on the PS1. I only played it that one day.
Oh, yeah,
but I don't recall too much of it. What
I'm saying is, like, you basically have already played that game, and I feel like...
It's just, like, the new improved version of that game. So I could picture, it makes sense to call it, like, the definitive version of that game, but it still is that game. A definitive edition wouldn't exist without the original.
No, and I feel like if you're going to go that, make it a different genre. Don't make it Game of the Year, make it a remastered Game of the Year.
Yeah, I get to do, like, subcategories within an award show or however...
Which a lot of people do.
Yeah, or a particular, like, website wants to do their breakdown. With so many remasters and remakes and stuff, I can picture them doing that. What's the best remaster of the year?
Yeah.
Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
You know,
What's the best
okay, it won that category.
of the
Next
year?
day, yeah, it's like okay, well, it's like oh no, it's you know, New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe or whatever.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
yeah.
best port of the year. And it's like oh okay, like cool, I get that. Is
No.
it the game of the year?
No.
And it's like, well, no, like, because we had, you know, Sekiro and Borderlands and Days Gone and Devil May Cry, like,
Yeah,
these are new games of that year.
You don't even hear any BuzzFeed about Devil May Cry 5. And that, honestly, is an amazing game because it's got, like, 3 different ways to fucking play on that game.
Oh, yeah, and it's got probably the longest campaign out of any of them. It's got all the extras from the old ones. Like, it's got new original characters and storyline, beautiful game, great mechanics,
Yep.
like... It's probably the best of the series, and Devil May Cry is already an award-winning series.
No.
And it's like, no talk about it.
Nope.
Which is
no
bizarre.
Buzz. No buzz, no fuzz, nothing. None of the sorts. And it's just like, and I agree, it's just like, it makes it hard for people who come out with, like, Days Gone or new games or games that deserve feed because, you know, like you said, they got the editor saying, you know, lambast it because this, again, how dare it be an amazing game for an exclusive game or... And it just sucks because they don't get that recognition that they deserve. And like, oh, well, Resident Evil 2 that's been out for so many years got remastered. Woohoo! It wins again.
Yeah, and it's like it came out in 1998. It's like, well, we already know the story. It's like it's the same publisher. Like we already know about Resident Evil 2.
Yeah, it's like
it's a brilliant, great game. I just don't think it should be even a consideration or in talks for Game of the Year.
no, like we said, do a subcategory.
It does seem very disrespectful to the ones that do have like original or new IPs or like new sequels or whatever it is, or even indie games like in 2019.
Yeah,
they don't even get a chance or a shot. Because it's like, oh yeah, you know this fantastic game that came out 20 years ago? We just like polished it and put new graphics on it. It's like, that's probably going to win. And it's like, what about the hardworking people like now that made a game for gamers now? And
this
the
is
PS4
another
in
tangential
mind.
thing too, because like with remasters, they completely remake them, don't they?
Remakes, they completely remake them.
Yeah.
So you get like your like Crash Bandicoot was completely remade. Medieval, which is coming out on the 25th, which will already have been out for 6 weeks by the time you listen to this. That was completely remade. That they break it down and they rebuild up. Remasters, you're essentially just getting kind of like a extra coat of paint over the top. It's like your deck's chipped away and you restained it and then did a top coat.
Okay.
That would be like a remaster. That's what you did. It's like it's chipped away over the years just because the hardware's gotten so much better, and maybe like the textures don't look as great now, or
so they're not really.
The frame rate was locked in at 30 frames per second, and people are used to a little faster gameplay to 60 frames. Remasters, they'll roll in and they'll do that. It's like they'll lock in frame rates at 60
So they don't
frames.
have like a big team.
Up-res it to. No, they're usually smaller, and they have usually separate studios, especially the. Like Sony and Microsoft and stuff, they will have like Blue Point Games is one that they do a lot of like remasters of games and stuff. They usually don't start over and just take the original as inspiration. So Resident Evil 2 wouldn't be a remaster. They built that from the ground up just based on Resident Evil 2.
Okay. So
And Final Fantasy 7 is like the same that's coming out in 2020 is going to be the same kind of way as Resident Evil 2.
But it again, still the argument is that it's not an original idea. It was already done.
It was already done, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, because if we were talking about, like, Resident Evil 7, I would say, yeah, that should be, like, up for Game of the Year. Like, it didn't come out this year, but I'm just saying, if it released this year, you're like, that's fine.
Yeah, because it's a new idea, new game, new everything. And then it's like the others, like you said, yeah, they may take the mechanics and rebuild it, but it's still the same game.
Yeah, and I'm not, like, saying that the people that worked on these remakes aren't doing great things or aren't talented people.
No, that's not what we're saying. But it gives people who come up
and maybe a better analogy, like, from the book one isn't necessarily, like, a remaster would be, like, a reprint of a book. You'd say, like, in this instance, like, you're essentially, like, plagiarizing.
Yeah.
Like, you're making the same book under your name.
Yeah.
And you just try to improve it because you know a lot about it. And it's like, that's still, I mean, like, you are paying homage and doing right by the original creators, but you're not really making anything on your own.
No. It's not a new original idea. And it just kind of sucks that games like Days Gone, Borderlands 3, ones that honestly,
those are like originals. You know?
originals and amazing games aren't getting the recognition that they deserve.
Yeah, and Days Gone, it's like, I know it did really poorly review-wise, and it's not...
Jesus Christ, that's a popular ass game, though.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about it. It reminds me of Fallout 76.
Yeah.
Where it seems like everyone dislikes it, or that it was bad, but then you dive into the communities and you see the growth in those communities over a set period of time, and it's like, if it's really that bad, why is there so many more people playing it, or why are there so many people talking about it?
Yeah, why are there so many people doing it?
Like, you have the virtual photography like community like really embracing Days Gone.
And which is nice because you had the opportunity to, because it's honestly a really gorgeous game. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous. Like, and then they've done right by their players.
No, we forgot Deacon St. John actually does a lot of voice acting.
Oh yeah, it acts period. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But with free patches and DLC and extra content and new modes, like that game does not have a season pass.
No.
But they've added so much to it, and it was already a huge game and a long game. Like,
yeah, it was long. I remember.
Like, but appropriately long.
Not like fucking 80 hours or some shit like that.
Yeah, that's like 40 hours, but yeah. Play it multiple times, yeah, you're getting
if any game you play multiple times, you can bracket the hours, but it's not like a 15-minute game like Destiny.
Yeah.
Or a 20-hour game like...
Don't Make Cry is like about 20 hours, campaign-wise.
Campaign-wise, but it's...
But that has higher, probably, replay value.
Higher replay value, and I was talking more about like New Far Cry.
Oh, Far Cry New Dawn, yeah. That's just kind of like an in-between installment for Ubisoft.
No, I know. I'm just saying in general, just something like that.
I'm surprised, like, because they're like... What?
Didn't that game come out this year?
It did, yeah. There's just like no mention of that either.
No.
Which is surprising with... That's the other thing that kind of gets me. With the year that's so limited on games, like we talked about in the beginning of the podcast, our ideas or thoughts on like why it's that way.
Yeah.
You would think that with a smaller pool of like big games or high-ranking games, you would have games like Far Cry New Dawn in talks for maybe not Game of the Year, but maybe some of the other categories. And it's like, even that game's not discussed.
No, and it just doesn't feel like it's a fair game or not voting system, but just in general. It's like, because like you said, editors can tell the people who they're writing about, lambast this game, make it sound like it's shitty just so Sony doesn't get another Game of the Year or something like that. Because bias, that's what the word I'm looking for, isn't very biased.
Headlines that say the opposite. So we stand out, and that does happen in that industry. That's unfortunate, especially with these big media outlets. It's like we even read some excerpts from like Polygon and IGN. They're huge. Excerpts. Very close.
That's okay. I say stuff like that all the time.
But it's like, how true are they to
the game or their opinions or
or what actually the general population is thinking?
Yeah, and you don't...
Is it so insular that they're only thinking about them and their community? Like, even the IGN reader poll, like, you think maybe that would be a better kind of, like, test or, like, control group. But all those people that voted in that poll are IGN fans.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to have a bias.
Yeah, I feel
if they're ones that were, like, willing to and did participate in the IGN poll, odds are all of their video game news has been from IGN over the course of a year or even a course of several years. So it's like there is going to be a slight shift in thought with how IGN's like writers and editors like their content that they create. The readers are going to fall in line. So even that is not like a true like test. You need a random like assortment of people. You do.
And then that comes into play. How the fuck do you do that?
With social media nowadays, I mean, it would be fairly easy. You would definitely need, like, an independent third-party group, though. That's
so, like,
the only
completely
thing.
Biased, maybe something that doesn't even have piece of, like, a company that has nothing to do with video games to run it.
That's what I mean. You'd have to do, like, like...
PR.
Like, the NPD, like, group that does, like, sales for video games or something. They're not creating any video game content themselves, or perspective, or a write-up, or reviews, or anything like that. They're just totally in sales. Like, they could probably conduct a poll, like via, you know, Twitter or
Facebook,
social media or
something.
all of the above kind of a thing, and then people could weigh in and vote. And that would probably be less.
Because there's so many outlets
biased.
you could do that to, and it just makes it more...
Yeah, people are going to fall in line if you prefer, like, Kotaku or Polygon or GameSpot or IGN, and they're going to start to think like their writers and editors.
Yeah, but if you get, like you said, a third party and says, just vote here, what do you think is your favorite game of the year, or that you played, or something along those lines, and gives an opportunity for something else besides a remaster or a remake, opportunity to be game of the year, like Borderlands 3, or Devil May Cry, or... you know, something like those.
Like, even, like, the Video Game Awards is very intimately attached to a lot of these outlets, or even, like, the bigger, like, independent ones now. Mm-hmm. And they have the same... They run in the same circles. Mm-hmm. So it's, like, you're seeing the same, like, journalists or ex-journalists, gaming journalists, like, host or be nominated. And it's like, well, now we're just talking about a boys' club.
Yeah, and that's
or
just
because it's 2019 and supposedly we're progressive. It's a boys and girls club. Really? But I was like, regardless, it's still an exclusive club and not representative of gamers.
The general population of people.
Like, you can say that it is, but it's like it's either tainted at the top level with bias because these people are following a specific outlet or person. Yeah. Or it's rigged from the start. Mm-hmm. And it's like editorial staff or a CEO of the company or, you know, you had a bad interaction with a Ben Studio PR person. Yeah. And whether you knew it or not, you let it out in your Days Gone review. Like, I mean, there's so many different possibilities that we're not going to be able to see because they can't even discuss or won't discuss. Or even,
like, your editor told you to lambast, and no matter how much you actually really like the game.
Yeah, and then in that situation, are you going to...
lose your job?
Yeah, or get demoted, or lose credibility and reputation, you know, at minimum.
And then not get, you know...
that career that you actually want, or that job, or that promotion that you want, or not be able to feed yourself.
Club.
You know? Yeah, it's like, then you're not being altruistic, you're worried about yourself, and you're not doing it for the art of journalism or for what's right. Yep. So it's like, and that works, that's true for any sort of journalism.
Well, yeah. I'm not saying there's not a line, and, you know, you're kind of backed into a corner, but at the same time... you have pseudonyms for a reason.
Yeah, it's like, that's how these systems work. And especially nowadays, I've read so many video game journalists will say stupid things and do stupid things.
What is that one line that they always use for Assassino? Or for...
oh, that was like any Ubisoft game, but yeah, that it's like their first game is always a template and the second game is always improves upon...
yeah, the first game. And that's literally verbatim of that.
And and it's like every single article about any single like Ubisoft sequel...
has that line.
Is that. And it's like, oh man.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah, because when I was working as a freelance journalist 10 years ago...
if you even had remotely anything like that.
Yeah, it was... if your sentence structure was too similar to that of another article or similar piece...
you'd have to regret it.
Yeah, or you, at worst, would be accused of plagiarism. Mm-hmm. The sentence structure. Like, you're not even using the same verbiage or conveying the same thing. It's just you mimic the sentence structure of another writer. Mm-hmm. And editors were keen enough and knowledgeable enough to find it, like, nonetheless. Yeah. Like, their breadth of knowledge of, like, current articles and writers, you know, of the moment.
That's why they get paid the big bucks for being editors.
And being able to point it out and, like, this. I mean, there's, like, a technical and a, like, current knowledge of, like, their own field. It's like, they oftentimes would do that. Like, I never got called out on that thing, but there's other writers that I worked with that did regularly. Like, yeah. They would do an article, and to them it was, like, wholly independent, and they weren't mimicking or reading other people's work. But you would read the pieces, and even the sentence, because the sentence structures were the same, they sounded the same. Yeah. The cadence and, like, the pauses and, like, how you would, like, actually verbalize it, especially since video reviews and articles were becoming more and more of a big thing. When it's read aloud, they sound the same because the sentence structure is the same, especially if it's, like, continuous throughout an article. That's why you would get, you know, accused of plagiarism or told to rewrite. And now you can just fucking say the same thing over and over. And it does. It shifts perspective on, you know, games of the year or if a game's good or bad. And it's disappointing.
And it just doesn't give opportunity for across the board, not just like a specific platform or specific hardware. Does it give opportunity for a game that honestly may be really good to get nominated or even win?
Yeah, it is disappointing. It's definitely, it shines the light away from those that are probably most deserving.
It does, because like you said, Frick, The Devil May Cry 5 came out, and like, you haven't heard anything of it since it came out.
It didn't have negative reviews, did really well.
But
9s
still.
and 10s, not even discussed.
No.
Days Gone, which is supposedly a bad game,
Still.
limitedly discussed, but it's still discussed because it's actually not a bad game, and so you can see that there is a
fluctuation.
Yeah.
In that, because
was it a dissonance in cognitive functionality?
Yeah,
There's just that shift between the mind and the page that obviously is trying to be recognized. And that's why Days Gone is in discussion, because people who played through the game and picked it up and gave it a chance realized that it's not a bad game and it never was.
Yeah.
So now there's just there's just this
voice,
valley there.
Yeah, a small voice down at the very bottom saying, "Hey, I'm actually a pretty good game."
Yeah, again, because it just
like we said about the writing.
Is.
Yeah.
And gaming journalists, for whatever reason, and we provided our own conjectures, just didn't label it as such. But even that is discussed. But Devil May Cry 5
wasn't discussed at all.
It's not discussed at all. And it's with a game with such, or with a year with such limited game of the year potential, why is that not even in
the discussion?
It's these bizarre games.
Well, yeah, the weird one-off ones, and New Dawn, Far Cry New Dawn isn't even mentioned, and that did well. Just a bunch of games like that, maybe smaller or ones that aren't remasters or remakes. It's just, or really oddities.
And Borderlands 3, which everyone was incredibly excited for, has a fantastic pedigree and history, and they've really done right by their player base too by releasing that free DLC for Borderlands 2. They released the first Borderlands leading up to it. They've been really active on Twitch and kind of that public relations sphere.
Nothing.
And then nothing. There's really no conversation about Borderlands 3 either, which is and that's done really well.
That's a pretty big game too, isn't it?
It's a really big game.
Dork.
Definitely a AAA, and it's just
Where'd you go?
Yeah, it's even the big games that came out this year, there's not as many of them as there has been years before, but we're not even discussing all of them.
No, and
we're only discussing Resident Evil 2 Remake. A little bit of Days Gone if an outlet deems it worthy enough.
Yeah, deems it worthy, keyword there. And
Apex Legends.
Really.
And then we're ignoring Borderlands 3, most of Days Gone, Devil May Cry 5.
Well, even still, we still have 2 more months. We still have Outsiders is still coming out. We still have the Geralt
Death Stranding.
Death Stranding's
and
coming
Outer
out.
Worlds, yeah.
Outer Worlds.
Oh, little to no buzz about the Outer Worlds, which I find disappointing. I don't know if that's just PR because of Obsidian, because they were just recently purchased by Microsoft, so it was already kind of promised for cross-plat, but
still, there's no buzz about those, so it's what it
Death Stranding, obviously been a lot of buzz and talk about, but I've noticed that a lot of articles are kind of shifting to that negative, Days Gone.
Because, they're trying to shift with the negativity toward it because it was so pined after, and now it's coming out. People are like, well, fuck this game.
Yeah, there's no way it could come out that quick, or Hideo Kojima is, lost his touch, or it's there's a loss of faith without even a finished product.
Yeah, they haven't even played. They haven't even played the goddamn game.
No, they'll be excited for years up to it, but if it had gone too long, then people would have complained that they announced it too quick. And then if it comes out, which it is, it's already been certified and has gone gold.
Yeah.
That it came out too quickly, and so it's what do you want?
Yeah, what the fuck do you want? But then again, I feel like that's not the people. That's the
it's just the media,
journalists and stuff like that. They're not voicing what people actually think.
No, they're providing their own opinions and trying to sell it as a majority.
And then that's not the case at all. It's a combination of things where people don't really get that opinion or voice.
Yeah. And in my opinion, IGN and some of these other ones, especially IGN, they're really calling the kettle black here. They've had so many high profile sexual misconduct cases, with editors and like managers and supervisors and stuff with their own company and like writers and journalists and stuff, they still feel the need to shove down your throat this self-righteous, like, we're the best, it's just our opinion, but it's absolutely right because I've been in gaming journalism for 20 years. And it's like, well, you've also been a human your entire life and you felt that it was okay to grope some woman in your office. But your 20 years of experience as a gaming journalist really, like, trumps anything else, and I know you have to be right because of it.
And then we get the side avenues, like, no, that's a tangential conversation.
It is a tangential conversation, but it's like,
but then
pretty much you just drank the Kool-Aid, and you actually don't really have
Yeah, Kool-Aid! But then you get, like, what's that one that you love to watch when we got together now you hate to watch?
Oh, Kind of Funny.
Kind of Funny Games.
Yeah.
Because and then they split up, and then Kind of Funny Games basically is IGN, but smaller.
Yes, it very much is. Like,
and
Greg Miller is obviously the tour de force behind that now, and pretty much has soul.
And that's why the one guy left, because he didn't want to be that.
Yes, and Colin Moriarty, who is very, like, polarizing, especially because of his political views, like, a lot of people hate him.
Yeah.
And he gets in fights with, like, other journalists and stuff all the time,
real,
and other internet celebrities. But that's why I prefer him.
Because he's real. He's not
real.
fake.
And he never says that he's, like, perfect. Like, he says that he's flawed, and that
his
he's not always
opinions aren't
right.
popular, and, you know.
He'll play the arrogant bravado type, but he'll also be quick to admit that that's
I was wrong, or I did
he's
this.
playing the part. And it's like, but also providing his opinion. But that's why he wanted to be
away from IGN.
Small and not be a part of IGN, and wanted to focus on other things. Wanted to do politics as well as video games and Sony and stuff.
And then
what he wanted.
Yeah, Greg Miller just like, now I want to be like IGN, but do my own thing. But which is exactly.
But just have controlling interest. It's kind of what it came down to. It seemed like a money thing, really, at that point. It's like, I was willing to not even save a relationship with my best friend because I would lose my company and therefore lose my money.
And I don't want to do any of that.
Well, you could have actually stuck up for him and changed things
and
to benefit him and still continue your company. But it was going to be difficult, and you wouldn't be, IGN's little stepbrother.
Yeah, and then
but solely controlling the cash flow. Well, it's disappointing. Yeah. Like, that's pretty much the definition of a sellout.
Well, I mean, to kind of like preface and wrap up, I feel like, hopefully, since it's not over yet, hopefully, by the time this comes out, we'll be pleasantly surprised. But I'm not holding my breath either.
I'd say not be pleasantly surprised or even that it matters so much. I think it's good to dissect and discuss, but what really matters is, what is our game of the year? What is Rage Quit? What do we endorse?
Batman. No. I honestly feel like game of the year for me should be Borderlands 3.
Makes sense. Why is that?
I love Borderlands. Like, I love the franchise. I love the story. I love just the craziness of it. Fucking Borderlands is legit.
Yeah.
And the 4 characters, and I want to play the Siren, but I like Borderlands. And it's not necessarily because I don't play a whole lot, but Borderlands is just amazing. It's been such a long time since they've actually came out with a game.
Yeah.
And how they did it, too, how they released DLC for free and the first game and all this stuff like that. Hey, try this before you try the third one.
Yeah.
Play. See what we are.
Kind of bridge the gap of goodwill.
Bridge the gap of the goodwill, and then, boom, here's our game.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fantastic choice and a worthy choice.
What is yours, Cancer? I think I know yours is.
Mine's Days Gone.
Called it.
Devil May Cry 5 is really fucking close.
I know. You're so excited about that, but then Days Gone just snuck in and stole your heart.
It did, yeah.
Freaking Deacon St. John in that voice.
Yeah, Deacon St. John was fantastic. I thought the story was great. I thought
character development was amazing.
Character development was really good. It was well written. It was a gorgeous game too. Being from the inland northwest of the Pacific Northwest,
kind of cool to see that too.
Yeah, it's like you're seeing places that like I've been to.
Yeah.
Like, or we visited, and that was really interesting. I also enjoyed the mechanics and that
challenges,
it was like a slow
the free
build to
release.
it. Yeah, the free DLC, and then they added survival mode, new game plus mode, and they've just done, I think, an amazing job of Studio, and I think they knocked it out of the park, and I think they're more deserving than what they've been getting.
I do too.
But no, I think Days Gone is definitely my game of the year, and then my close runner-up would be Devil May Cry 5.
I think mine would be Days Gone would be my close runner-up, and then Devil May Cry would be my third, if anything.
Yeah.
So.
And Devil May Cry 5 is like a second place spot or even a third place spot is like,
I think so,
fantastic.
yeah.
Like, it's,
Yeah, and then, you know,
it's done so well and
do the different gameplay, and again, that's another
yeah.
whole
We can
thing.
definitely talk about that
Oh, yeah.
series or the characters in a later podcast. But it's like I don't think it's as important to discuss what other people. I think it's important to discuss rather. I don't think it's important to like warrant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know importance
Yeah.
about these outlets or these like award shows and who they pick.
I think they needs to be.
I
I
think
think it needs to be changed. It needs to be revamped.
Yeah.
To make it
I think
fair.
it needs to be up to the people.
I
Gamers.
feel like that can be up to the people in a lot of scenarios. But yes, I agree.
No, I mean to gamers, like
Yeah.
gamers who have played these games and have played games continuously, or kids just
Or
get
even
into
like
games.
we've talked about too, people who have multiple freaking consoles who've played all the games and to feel have their opinion of what their favorite game of the year is.
Yeah, they need more of a say. I think leaving it up to these kind of people is just kind of nonsensical.
It is, and it's messing it up, honestly.
I'd rather even have like a coalition of like podcast our size, like
Yeah,
ask our listeners or our social
and
media
then take
followers,
all
and
that
then take all of it and
into
like
a
collate
poll.
it.
Exactly.
Instead of having 24 IGN writers and editors yell at each other to come up with a definitive list.
Yeah, or
So-
write the same article over and over again.
Yeah, it's just
That's stupid.
it's just too one sided and doesn't make sense.
Nope. All right. Well, I feel honestly that wraps up Game of the Year.
Yeah.
Hopefully we get more buzz on other games, but again, not holding my breath. Hopefully things change, but again, not holding my breath.
Yeah, we'll do like an addendum or an extra part to this podcast.
Yeah, like a
if something
15-minute
dramatic
changes, but
like if Death Stranding just blows everything out of the water and it's,
oh yeah, then we'll
heralded
talk
as,
about that.
one of the best games ever made. They'll definitely warrant further discussion. Yeah, there'll be an addendum to this podcast. But otherwise, yeah, this will be the last one for the year.
Ooh.
Ah. And then we'll be back first week in January for Rage Quit.
Bum, 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 bum.
Yeah. But you can catch us here every week. Was it Wednesdays? Wednesdays.
Yes, Wednesdays.
Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when this releases in December, what you're listening to right now, I'm going to be taking the rest of the month off to enjoy the holidays. But like I said, we'll be back January.
Oh,
so.
of course.
Yep.
We ain't going anywhere too far.
No, not at all. But thanks for listening in. Tune in and comment if you have, a different opinion for what
Agree,
your game of the year
disagree,
is.
hate what we said, hate how we are,
Whatever works for you. Yeah, it's open for discussion.
Find me on Twitter at Merhobbit.
I'm at Anthony R. Schultz, and I also stream 5 nights a week at ASInquisitor
Exactly.
on Twitch.
Find us and say something.
Do it.
As always, follow the
Sydney.
bear. Oh, God.
On Parnassus.
10 years ago. All right. Well, this has been an episode of Rage Quit. Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, episode 14. Peace.
Bye.
We talked about how if anything changed with Game of the Year, nominees or our opinion or contenders or any kind of new news or anything, that we would record a separate chunk to add on to the original podcast. So you were listening to this all in one, though.
Shut up.
For us, this is a few weeks apart. It's like early October to mid-November.
Oh, yeah, it's midway through November, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Because when we first recorded, Medieval hadn't come out,
No.
The Outer Worlds hadn't come out,
Nope.
Death Stranding hadn't come out,
Nope.
and Pokemon hadn't come out.
Did that come out?
I believe so. People are getting a hold of copies of it.
Oh,
I know Walmart and stuff I saw on Twitter this morning was, they've had huge issues with that, but, letting people buy it, through, days early and stuff, and
This is
which they're not supposed to
Walmart.
do, yeah.
It's
But
you don't pay me
Walmart's
enough.
just leaking stuff and
Yeah,
selling
well, it's
stuff
like,
early.
You don't pay me enough to fucking care at Walmart. This is exactly what they say.
Yeah, but for a corporation, they get in a lot of trouble with that.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, well, so now that we played Medieval and Outer Worlds, we haven't played Death Stranding.
No, but we have enough news about it, and there's been enough kind of feedback and other reviews And then Pokemon's the same kind of way. I caught up on like news today about Pokemon Sword and Shield, and we're like right in there for release. Okay. I can look that up real quick to see when the hard release day was. We are recording this on, what is it, November 12th? 13th? Yep, November 13th, sorry. So I will look up the hard release date for Pokemons. But we did want to touch base on some of the other games that we either missed out on or there just wasn't enough news to discuss. I don't think...
My opinion hasn't changed for Game of the Year.
That's what I was just going to bring up. Mine hasn't changed either. Some of these games I've played, and then some of these... Like I said, we've just looked up... Or I've looked up news articles and stuff, or read reviews, or opinions that more kind of align to my own. Like other kind of like enthusiasts and stuff. November 15th. So I guess we're 2 days away from it, but I don't know if review copies are going out or if they're being sold early like I was discussing or what exactly is going on with that, but people are playing it. So
I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, stuff's going on.
Don't know. But no, I honestly, after watching you playing Outer Worlds and everything, my opinion hasn't changed. That game ended up kind of being a huge disappointment in my opinion.
Yeah, and right after this, actually, we're going to be... Because these are all going to be spaced out release, wise.
Yeah.
Podcast release wise, they're going to be like spaced out. But we're actually going to record, and that's going to be part of like the discussion for that episode. There's something else that I don't want to tell you because I want your like fresh opinion when we talk about it, and it pertains to what you do and what you like to do.
I feel like that's a trap.
No, it's not a trap. I just want an honest gut opinion because I already have a formed opinion. Because of what I did before career-wise, so but you have something that you can definitely offer.
I feel like it's a trap.
It's not a trap. I'm being very vague and kind of cagey, but
I'm vague. It's a trap.
We're gonna be recording kind of a more in-depth. It might run a little bit longer because I don't think we will be discussing the Outer Worlds. I should just leave it at that and cut it. I don't think end podcast. And that was the last one. I don't think he died. I don't know.
The hamster fell off the wall.
Yeah, it did a little bit.
It got flung off the wall.
Just sliding down the glass of the terrarium. Exactly. We will be discussing the Outer Worlds in depth in a spoiler cast episode, and then that'll be in conjunction with what I was kind of being cagey about, kind of a side topic that attaches to it.
You can't be a dick.
Yeah, I agree. The Outer Worlds was... I had really high expectations for it. It looked something that I would totally enjoy and love, and I was very excited for it, especially, to play for like my birthday, and I was kind of disappointed about it. I thought it was just a good game. Yeah. And when I'm actually working on a review for it right now, which will be a little bit more in depth than what I've done for ASInquisitor, but I like to do more of it. There's going to be a write-up, a hard review, and then there's going to be like an accompanying like YouTube video with it.
Yeah.
But when I was doing the pros and cons like kind of list, which sometimes I would do for like reviews when I was working as a journalist, there was a lot more cons than pros.
I don't know what that was.
Like, it was a little hiccup.
You're just having a difficult time.
I guess I am. I guess.
I'm the one that's been talking at work all day, and you're the one that's falling apart. You all right?
I haven't like talked at all today. I've been listening to things today. But my listening skills are good. My speaking skills.
When you talk with the toddler, he's
you start to flub over words a little bit, or you just make sounds. That happens on a regular basis when you only have a 2-year-old. It's way easier to communicate with than like, how are you doing today, little person? Like, it just doesn't. Like, and if he ever bust out like a cap, a cane, and a monocle, and it was like, "Good day to you, sir," and then like wanders off, I will be amazed, and my speech level will probably increase. But
until then, he trips over his own feet and then cries. So
exactly, yeah. My persuasion ability on the Outer Worlds will +10.
Oh my God. Your persuasion in the Schultz's house. +10.
Exactly. Well, wasted that perk point.
Oh. Poor Ollie.
Poor Ollie.
But yes, no, I feel like with the games that have been going around, even with Outer Worlds and Death Stranding, my brain, you brain the brain. Death Stranding, even though it was getting good reviews and everything, I just feel like the games that I picked for Game of the Year are still, in my opinion, what should be Game of the Year, not what they're fucking throwing out there.
Yeah, I think Borderlands 3 is definitely a worthy and like good choice for the year. Yeah, the Outer Worlds just kind of didn't meet the mark for me, and so it doesn't dethrone Days Gone.
No,
at all. Which is funny because like one of the big issues like with Days Gone was a lot of people said it was like very unpolished, especially at first. But it's like I feel like the Outer Worlds is like really rough for what it is.
They had like a huge ass glitch where it's like the sound was completely off for an entire level of the game.
Oh yeah, I had to completely like close everything out and then like reboot back in. I never had that happen with Days Gone, and I played that from day one on too.
Well, I know, but I'm saying with the Outer Worlds, it still happened even though you rebooted it. Like they had to patch it.
Yeah, the audio was a little bit rough, especially like with synchronization or like looping. That was the common thing. And then we'll get more into the spoiler cast for it, but. I had one of the main companions just their quest their quest line like randomly glitched out at the end, so I wasn't able to finish it. Just didn't register, even though I had the conversation and like agreed to do it, and it told me like the location. It never came up in my quest log, and then it wouldn't allow me to go do it anyways. And then, that character, when they did, like, the final wrap-up after I completed the game, was like, this character just died. And then they just moved on, and the character had not died, like, in my gameplay at all. Like, they were still alive. So that was really weird. Like, a lot of this stuff will, like, kind of shelve, but, yeah, it definitely wasn't Game of the Year for me. Death Stranding, I think, could be, if I had, like, played it a little bit. But you are right, I feel like the reviews are just as polarizing as Days Gone were.
Yeah, so it's just kind of hard because it's just like...
It's hard to judge.
You get people like, it's just a dumb delivery game. Why the fuck am I wasting all my time?
Yeah, some people are like, oh, it's just a walking simulator. It's just a hiking simulator. And it's like watching a movie and then I'm playing a hiking simulator. Like, who cares? And then other people are like, I didn't realize I needed a game like this.
Yeah.
Like, and some of them are, people that wouldn't like those kind of simulation games are absolutely loving it, and then other ones are saying that it is a completely brand new genre, which is what Hideo Kojima was trying to do. Supposedly, he was make a Strand game and make a new genre from Death Stranding. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I think that would probably come close to dethroning Days Gone for me as Game of the Year.
Yeah, I can see that.
Unfortunately, I just don't know, even from what I've read and like seen about it.
Yeah, and then we can't say too much because Pokemon Sword and Shield isn't technically out there yet, even though people have been getting games to play. Well, I don't think it's going to be Game of the Year either.
Although there are reviews out for it, and there is kind of a big like social media hoopla going on about it right now. Apparently, Game Freak specifically said that... the Pokedex was going to be a lot smaller this go around for Sword and Shield because they were focusing on like making sure that all of the like character models and stuff, and wireframes and everything that goes into modeling like each of the Pokemon and their evolutions to make those top notch.
Yeah.
And so they were focused on that. And so, because of the time crunch and release date, delivery, that they had to truncate the overall like Pokedex. Apparently, it came out people sifting through source code that they directly lifted from handheld versions.
Oh, that's sneaky.
Of like most of the Pokemon. So they actually didn't create anything new, and so then therefore there shouldn't have been any significant amount of time pumped into it.
Yeah.
And so then therefore why is the Pokedex less? Or why aren't the character models looking a lot better?
Oh, that's stupid.
And the same. So, and it's hard to say how much of that is true and how much of that is not. I find it a little weird because I feel like Pokemon fans and fans of Game Freak in particular are like, most of them, I wouldn't say present company included, but...
No.
Are just rabid. Like anything Pokemon is fantastic and amazing. And they trust Game Freak to a fault. So I find it a little weird to see like a very large segment of that population, maybe a 50-50. Could be just a vocal minority, but very pissed off and angry at Game Freak. That's a studio I didn't really expect to see much anger.
Well, it's because it's like, in my opinion, they changed a beloved game that they've been doing for generations. Honestly, literally, not the same, because they've always added, changed cool things to it, but completely fucking different to the point where it's like, this isn't a fucking Pokemon game. I'm not playing something stupid. I just want my basic Pokemon game.
Yeah, exactly.
And then now they're trying to...
And there's some of the complaints that you've made in prior podcasts about Pokemon, specifically Sun and Moon, seem to be evident in Sword and Shield.
Because
not all.
No, but they've done it.
They does seem to have carried over a little bit.
They've done it again, is what they're saying.
Yeah, so I'm a little worried about like what your takeaway would be from it.
Probably ain't gonna get that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like I said, it's hard to tell. It's like we're a couple days from the street date, so I mean, we'll find out more and be able to watch, footage and streams and stuff.
Yeah,
YouTube videos, all that good hoopla, and then also read more in depth once we have like kind of a full body of reviews. But I don't know. I don't think, at least in my opinion, and this is like me with blinders on a little bit, but I don't think Pokemon Sword and Shield was ever really in the running for Game of the Year, in my opinion.
No.
Like, just period.
I mean, I love Pokemon.
Before or after
don't get
release.
me wrong, but they've never really been in the running. They're just it's
yeah. I mean, they're great games. I'm not knocking them.
No,
like,
they
for
are
the most
amazing
part.
Games,
they're great games, and it's a good series.
It's not like mechanically advanced as some of the other.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call it Last of Us or probably even what Death Stranding is and things like that. But,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then just last night actually, so that would have been the 12th of November.
12th, remember?
Yeah. I platinumed the remaster for Medieval.
Now that was a good game.
It was a really good game. I had a lot of fun with it.
It was funnier than shit.
Oh, yeah, they...
Daniel was so hard to school.
Yeah, they managed to keep a lot of the original charm from the, 1998 original release, which I think is really hard because it's definitely an offbeat and quirky game, and just changing... like the voice acting or even the music or just kind of one aspect of it, I think would like lose a lot of its charm.
I think so too.
But they kept it. Like, it's still kind of janky, but it works because it's from that PS1 era of games, like the first 3D platformers. So and the cameras and stuff, but it's not so overbearing that it's unplayable like the PSP version was. And then all of the kind of dark humor and like gothic horror vibe and like the silly accents and like the narrators kind of jokes and the gargoyles jabs at Sir Daniel Fortescue, like all of that like carried through. It was fantastic.
And the fact like Sir Daniel Fortescue doesn't have a jaw and how he talks, he's missing an eyeball. Yeah,
he's really like a unique protagonist. Like not one where you would expect like leading the charge, especially for like first party like Sony kind of lineup. You think of your Nathan Drakes and your Kratos from God of War and your Joel and Ellie and things along those lines, and then kind of just snuck up this October Sir Daniel Fortescue, who does not really even have, like you said, a speaking part in the game. And then there's subtitles. Yeah, it's like, which is fantastic.
Exactly.
That game was great, though. I love the little addition of the Finding the Lost Souls, and you can unlock the original game by doing that.
Didn't you do that?
I did, yeah, and I did like the first level on the original, and it boots up the same as if you were to put a PS1 game in a PS1.
You have to show me that later.
Yeah, where it like comes up with the white and orange logo, and it makes the PS1 sound.
My
and all
ass
that.
was asleep.
Yeah, it's like all of that. They just poured it right over, and it's just another menu option on the top menu.
That makes sense.
So it's like you have new game, load, and then there might be like credits or something in there, but then it's old game. So you have new game and old game, and then you click old game, it just boots you right into the original, which I thought was really cool. And you can only do that by collecting all of the Lost Souls and then doing their optional side quests, which are in different levels. So like ostensibly you end up playing the remaster like 2 to 3 times.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, you play the levels.
The levels over and over and over again.
But they're short and quick, and once you're your version of Sir Daniel Fortescue is kind of like
Maxed
out and has like new and varied weapons.
It's super easy.
Yeah, it kind of changes it up
took
a
you,
little
like,
bit.
an hour or two to polish it off last night?
Yeah, exactly. And so that would have been me playing the game another 2 times.
Mm-hmm.
But, it took me, probably like a week and a half, 2 weeks to go through the story campaign at once. But we, earlier in this Splice podcast, we talked about remasters and their place in Game of the Year. So as much as I love that game, and it probably is one of my favorite games of this year, I just don't think it's in the running for Game of the Year.
No,
just
I don't either. It's an amazing game, but it's not a new game. It's literally the same kind of stuff again.
Yeah.
Multiple times. It's not the first remaster.
But yeah, like as we've talked about before, like remasters not like being included in Game of the Year. Like I stand by that. Like I don't think Medieval.
I do too. Medieval's a fun, cool game, but no, same situation.
And it was niche when it came out, anyways. And I'm really surprised that there's been 2 remakes of it now.
Yeah.
And that it even has legs in 2019 to begin with. So I'm just happy that like a niche remaster or like remake of a game that I enjoyed was actually made that I can play again. I'm just happy that it exists, I guess. But it definitely doesn't dethrone Days Gone for me for this year.
Borderlands for me.
Yeah. And just kind of keep it in a bubble kind of by itself. Like with the Resident Evil 2 remake.
This is awesome.
Like Ape Escape.
Yep. But yeah, no, I agree. It's, it's a fun game, but just a remake.
Yeah, exactly. Other than that, I don't think there really are. I'm sure I'm missing something, and somebody will sound off in the comments that I didn't hear.
I hope so.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, if there's something we didn't cover either this year or more specifically in this portion of the podcast, something that's like coming out
that we may have forgotten or missed.
Yeah, from November to December. Usually there's not a lot of game releases in December anyways, but usually throughout November there is. We didn't really speak much of like Call of Duty Modern Warfare or things along those lines.
Yeah,
which I hear is doing really well, but
still, I mean,
yeah, not something that really fits like the tone of this podcast, but something that we can discuss. Like we do have some knowledge of Call of Duty.
Yeah, more along the lines of zombies, but yeah.
But yeah, if there's something just in general that maybe we've forgot to touch base on that has released, I'd probably say from October 25th when Medieval and the Outer Worlds and On releases.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, bring that up, specifically in relation to this part of the podcast and, tell us how we screwed the pooch and just missed out on some amazing game, that we should have discussed.
We're freezing in our house.
Or should have been discussed in our Game of the Year Rage Quit podcast. See. But anyways, this is us sounding off probably for the second time. I'll see if I can work my editing magic, but just follow the bear.
Follow the bear. Goodbye.
Have a good night. Hey there, guys. This is Anthony Schultz, one half of the duo for Rage Quit. I just wanted to spend a minute or two, at most, talking about Ariel and I's other endeavors or where you can follow her and I if you're a fan of this podcast. So, I'm most prolific on Twitter as far as social media is concerned. I share more kind of gut reaction or like private experiences and opinions there. I'm at Anthony R. Schultz. Pretty easy to remember, just my name. And if you'd be so inclined, you can give me a follow, and I also drop Rage Quit links there every week. And other things that Ariel and I are both working on. ASInquisitor also streams, which is the production company that produces Rage Quit, essentially myself at the moment. And I stream 5 days a week. I'm a variety streamer, so I do a little bit of everything. Hopefully, there's something there that you would really enjoy, even if it's just 1 day a week. I take every Thursday and Friday off, and you can follow and or subscribe at twitch.tv/ASInquisitor. All these links that I'm mentioning will be in the description box below, and I will reiterate. Also, ASInquisitor has a YouTube channel. So if you're not listening to this podcast via YouTube, if you're using your preferred podcast provider, this podcast does make its way to YouTube. We will eventually be recording not only our voices, but also ourselves when we do the podcast. We're just working on some equipment issues right now. But we also have past streams that I've done for ASInquisitor that have a little bit more kind of polish or pizzazz to them. They're divided up into like better bite-sized chunks for complete game playthroughs or Let's Plays. There's also a lot of unique content there. I record things throughout the week as I play games, just kind of funny moments or maybe even like personal achievements, things of that nature. And so you can search for ASInquisitor on YouTube. And again, the link will be in the description below. But those are my 3 kind of primary platforms that you can find me on. So that's Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. Ariel actually has her own YouTube channel called Painting with LM Schultz. She's a very talented painter. She has her fine arts degree and enjoys painting for cathartic reasons, as well as to improve on her like technical prowess. So she started her own YouTube channel to improve on her techniques, as well as show people kind of some basics or things that you can do painting wise. There's also some other kind of crafty do-it-yourself kind of ideas and videos on there as well that pertain a little bit more personally to her and I, because they usually involve our family. You know, it's a family project that she's working on. For example, she did our son's Halloween costume, and so she walked through how she constructed and created, the costume and how you could do something similar for your kiddos at home. And then finally, you can follow Ariel on Twitter as well. She is primarily on Twitter, just like myself. We don't really indulge in too many other social media platforms, save for maybe Instagram. I don't think we're as active on there. Ariel might be, more so than myself. But you can follow her at Merhobbit and give her a follow as well. That's my lovely co-host and beautiful wife, Ariel. But anyways, I just wanted to stop in and kind of throw some links your way. And if you were curious about what ASInquisitor was doing and how Rage Quit kind of fit into that ecosystem, there it is. Yeah, got all the links for you. If you're interested in any one of those, all of those links are going to be in the description box below, and they're going to be in every podcast episode now. So I'm not sure if they're entirely there right now, but I'm going to be doing a fresh write-up and make sure and have all of those included for you. So just click a link or copy and paste and head on over if any of those strike your fancy. But anyways, thanks for enjoying the show. Really appreciate it. We'll be back next week for more rage quittiness. And as always, follow the bear. And have a good evening, guys.